Hello, welcome. Welcome to Sunday. Sunday fun day. My neighbors are talking loudly, so if you hear them, it's just my neighbors. They're talking loudly today. They like to stand in the middle of the street and kind of talk loudly to each other. Okay, everybody. I hope everyone's doing well. I've been in kind of a constant sort of off and on state of meditation since Tuesday. I've done more meditating between then and now than I think I have in my whole life. But I've got a lot of interesting information to share from that, which I'll put in a video that I'll probably put up today. And it's going to be kind of all about where we are and what's going on, and kind of some things about the election. So I'll put that out today. And so for those of you who don't know, this show is it's a spiritually based show. So I'll have guests, but on days like this one, I'm by myself. Next week we'll have a guest, but this week I'm by myself, and that means that you can ask whatever spiritual questions you want to, and I'll pose them to either, if I don't know the answer, I'll hand it over to my guides. And that's what we do. We get some answers about some of these things, and you can put personal spiritual questions in, and I'll try to make it more general to help everybody, because that's kind of what this is about. Okay, so that's that. And I'm going to start with Roxanne, and it looks like it's kind of it's a three-parter. But let's start with Roxanne. So Roxanne, but good morning, everybody, and thanks for showing up and being here. Metaphysically speaking, I'm interested in hearing from your guides how they explain the fact that some readers were able to see the winner of the election and so many didn't. Thank you. And then the other part is, I'm also interested in hearing explanation as to why, for example, in my case, I've had readings which correctly predicted things 13, 20, even more than 40 years in advance. I've seen them myself too. If things change so often and are so malleable and affected by free will, then why can things be seen so far in advance? Okay, so I guess I'll just go into this because this is part of what I got from my guides, and I will ask them if there's anything else they want to add. What they told me was very enlightening as a reader. And this, well, first of all, let me just say this. They said that in general, because time is speeding up, events are speeding up, and it doesn't feel like that, like one thing after the other after the other. It just feels like we're on this treadmill that we're just rolling on, that it's getting harder for readers to predict kind of world events, bigger things, because everything's happening at such a fast clip. That also means that energy's moving faster and they're saying than it ever has before. So it doesn't mean, though, that we can't get a glimpse or understand, but we have to be very mindful of the fact that things can change. And let me give you the example that I've been noticing on, if you are on, I don't know if you're on Threads, but a lot of intuitives on there are saying that, like, they read on this and got it wrong as well. But they had this weird thing where all of these readers woke up about 3 or 4 in the morning of election day. And that was me. That was me too. I showed you this message that I got, right? And I put it in my phone so it would be time-stamped because I just thought it was so strange that it was coming in. And what had happened was I woke up about 4 a.m. and I just started to kind of meditate. And part of the reason I started to meditate is I didn't feel physically very good, but I also was feeling kind of down. And which was weird because the night before, I was really looking forward to election day. So I got this, right? And it was at November 5th on election day at 4:15 a.m. Right? So it was almost like because we were attuned to the election and we had asked about it, we were getting an update. It's like we're all getting an update at the same time because something had changed. And one thing that my guides had said, and I'm not going to get into, I don't want to get into like conspiracy theories or anything like that. I just want to say that things were not put in play until about 24 hours before. Like they didn't know if this was like a go until about 24 hours before. Right. My last reading on the channel was the Thursday before. So that's what was going on. And so, but they also filled me in that right now things are moving so quickly that it's getting really hard to be able to follow where things are going because things are changing so much. And as we've talked about before, Roxanne and everybody, free will is a major player, right? Free will it's why we're here, so no reader can trump someone's free will. And all they can do is follow the energy patterns that if they're asking about something. It's almost like they showed it as like strands of like a wire, and one's lit up. Like you ask the question and one lights up, and then that's the one you follow. What they also said, though, which I thought was really fascinating, was that you're not only following probable outcomes, you're also following preferable outcomes. Not so much for you, but in this case, the whole world had a preference, right? The whole world had a preference. And so that also makes things, it's almost like you're drawn to that because that is also what everybody would like. And it's not, like I said, it's not really you as a reader, because even if you separate your own feelings, right, everybody else has a wish or a hope, and you're kind of reading that. And so what happened to a lot of readers was not only they were looking at the probable, because this was the natural outcome, the natural way, the organic way it should have played out, but they're also picking up on the world's preference, right? The world's And they even said spirit's wish as well. The spirit realm has they can work with either way. So either way is good. Either way is okay. But they also have a preferred way because they always want us to go the easier route. I've said that a million times. They always want us to go in our personal guides always want us to go the joyful, more and easier route. They don't ever want us to have to go down the hard road of learning a lesson. They'd always like us to go the easy road. So they're always kind of trying to nudge us that way, but they know that it's not the way humans work. Humans get lost in their heads is what happens. And then they might reason out something, but their gut is telling them something different. But because our brain is so prevalent and loud and constant, we tend to listen to that quite a bit. So I guess the answer to your question, Roxanne, and like I said, I'll pose it to the guides as well, is that things have changed over just the last few years. Since COVID, time has sped up. Things have it's different for readers now. And so what I have learned too is that readers need to step up their game. And that's why I am going to be meditating a lot more. I'm going to be shifting to the times. I'm going to try to shift as a reader to what's going on now. And also, Roxanne, they're saying something. So one second, let me just ask them about this. They're talking about markers, big markers, and a lot of those are kind of, it's almost like they're set in stone. So even if they don't happen, say your reader said you're going to meet someone and fall in love, and there is a person you're meant to be with, you'll have a bunch of opportunities to run into that person, to meet that person, to have this happen, because it's kind of it's a setup. It's a set in stone kind of experience. And we rarely miss those. And it's usually because there are lots of ways to get there. It's not just one way. I'll give you the example of when I met my husband, right? When I met my husband, he had just gotten to the US. He was a foreign exchange student. We met at a Bill Clinton rally. Now, when I went, everybody had bailed. That my sister had to go to work and different people had to do different things. So I went by myself, which is very unusual, but I just felt like I should, right? If I hadn't, he was going to be in the next town over for another year. So there probably would have been 5 or 10 other ways that we would have kind of bumped into each other or met or overlapped or whatever, because this was a meeting that was meant to be. And we also are connected to our higher self. So our higher self is always speaking to us. And so that can prompt us day to day. And so when they're seeing things 13, 20, and 40 years out, that makes me feel like these are things that are more set in stone, more like these kind of pivotal moments, right? And if you're interested about this kind of thing, Roxanne, read the Journey of Soul books by Michael Newton, because that goes into how we plan our lives, what it's like in between lives, and that kind of thing. And I think that this kind of, asking about these long range, things that this is what we're talking about. Okay. So let me go to, okay. So Jane the Seeker, this was another thing that they talked about. And again, you know what, Jane, I think I'm going to skip this question only because I'm going to address all of this in the video that I'm going to do, and I don't want to have to repeat it again. But just watch for that. I'll probably be out today, so you won't have to wait long for your for your answer. But thank you, and I am going to answer that. Okay, and Jane is wondering if we skipped a timeline. I'm going to ask that question. It's not the way it quite came across to me, but I will. Okay, so they're not calling it a timeline. They're calling it a kind of it's like we switched to the next probability. That's what we did. So it's like this was always kind of there. The other thing that they had said in one of the meditations I did was that readers that readers are not going to naturally be drawn to the nefarious. They're not going to be drawn to thievery or lying things like that, lower level activity, unless they're asking about that specifically. They're not going to be drawn to that naturally. So it's really important again, like getting better as a reader, right? Asking those questions in the future. We knew there was going to be some underhanded stuff. We knew, right? Starting from the weird kind of Jim Crow laws they have in some of these states to whatever secrets they had after the election. So we knew about that, right? And so I think we didn't really bother asking specifically about what is this? What's going to happen? What could happen? We didn't, at least I didn't. But I know now that I, as a reader and as a person who is tries to be a good person and is at a certain, tries to be at a certain vibratory level all the time so that I can read, I'm not going to be naturally drawn in or aware of those kind of lower level vibration activities unless that's what I'm looking for. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. So what I'm feeling is not so much a timeline skip, but they're saying the next it's almost like the next probability over. That's what, so there's almost like they're right next, like they're running parallel to one another. And we just skipped over to the next probable is what happened. And to me, it's almost like it wasn't even that probable till about the 24 hours before for some reason. And I don't know if it's just that's when everything came together. That's when there was a call or whatever. I don't know, but it's like it was like 24 hours before. And that's why a bunch of readers woke up at like 4 in the morning, 3:30 in the morning. Maybe you did too. But that morning I woke up at about 3:30 and could not get back to sleep. And that's why I was kind of up meditating. And that's when I started to feel like I don't feel good for some reason. And I just thought, well, I just don't feel good because I had allergies and stuff. But no, I was feeling it, And I think that's another thing too, is that we have to be more willing as readers to be moved. I think sometimes when we've checked on things, how many times did we check on that race, right? And so you feel like I've checked on it and checked on it. It can't possibly have changed now, but it did, so we have to be willing to kind of go with it, even though it may not make sense, and I think that's, again, that brain that gets in the way. We're trying to put logic to it, but this reading and working with spirit has nothing to do with the brain. The brain is the filter. A lot of times it gets in the way, or the filter that helps you to interpret, which can be wrong, right? So the brain is the issue, if you ask me. It's the brain problem. Yeah, and Kim J, I'm going to go into that as well in my video, okay? And the reason I'm just kind of like, I don't want to go into it again, because I just don't want to repeat everything again, okay? But I will. Questions, dear Kim. Who do some pass on loved ones? Oh, I think you're trying to say why. Why do some passed on loved ones feel far away and others feel closer, and are there energetic levels to heaven? Okay. Okay, so they want me to do this. They want me to do that. Okay, so this middle circle would be Earth. This would be one realm. This would be another realm. And then the out one would be another realm. And it seems like what they're trying to say is all of these realms, all of them have to do with Earth. So it's almost like they're all surrounding Earth. And that's where the spirits that we talk to, our guides, family members, they're in this space. And they're saying it's separated vibration. So one is vibrating at one level, another at another, and it gets denser as you get to the center, is what they're saying. So it gets more like Earth the closer you get. A lot of family members, they're saying right now, they're saying they hang out in this realm. How do I do this? Closest. What am I doing? Closest to Earth. This realm right there. So that's kind of. I'm feeling like they're saying like that's what we kind of know as heaven, and that there's these other kind of realms around it. Preparatory. They're saying preparatory. So maybe it's where we go to prepare to come to Earth, or where there's an Earth-like density in some of these areas or something like that, so we can kind of get used to it, because they're saying it's preparatory. But this is where like all of the spirit beings that we know and that we contact, and including our loved ones, are in those realms surrounding Earth. This is how they're showing me this is how, this is like what they wanted me to draw. So this is what it is. And it's all based and revolving around Earth. It's all part of it. They're also talking about this is why different beings feel different, or some feel closer and some feel further away. They're saying a lot of our family members are in that one closest to Earth. They're kind of and that's kind of what we know as heaven. And so they're in that, but they can travel to other places. So depending on where they are and what they're doing, they may not be as clear when you're speaking to them as other times you're speaking to them. But it's an energetic separation. It's not actually places, it's energetically separating. And I had my out-of-body experience. I stepped into that. I stepped into whatever this thing is around Earth. It's like it's on top of us in a way. And so they're showing it as like a circle around, but it's really just a different energetic vibration here. And then to get to the next level, that's a different vibration. And that's also, they're saying, is why some people channel certain beings, because they're attuned to, if it's a really high vibration, or I like to say a really fast vibration, they might be speaking to like the council, or the extraterrestrials or whatever. They're vibrating at that. That's where they can get to. It's like they figured out how to get that far. And so those are the people that are talking. Now, mediumship is it's more localized, right? You don't have to be that high. You have to be higher than you are here, but you don't have to be really, really at a fast moving or a lighter that light of a vibration. It's a little more, it's closer to Earth. And so is this making sense to you guys? Okay. All right. So that's what they wanted me to draw and kind of how to explain it. But they're emphasizing it's not like physical places. And we have a hard time understanding that because of everything's physical here. Everything, you go here or you can go to Disneyland. It's like two different places. But here and Disneyland are all in the same vibrational frequency, right? And so when you step out of that, and they're Yeah, I'm not going to get that. It's something about where our sky and stuff, where it kind of bleeds into um, other realms in some way. But I'm not going to understand that. Maybe an astrologer would have a better idea of all that stuff. But I don't want to get into that. But they're kind of like, that's, yeah. So, okay, but good question, Gina. That's a great question. All right. And Kim J, I will answer that question for you in my video. And to me, you know, especially after the last thing, it's like I don't freak out really anymore if particularly if I get something wrong. But if everybody gets something wrong, it's odd, it's weird, and there's definitely got to be a reason for it. But I just get curious and I just start to dig in because, like I said, my trust in my guides, my trust in my abilities, being right most of the time, that ship has sailed. I'm there. So I'm not going to turn around and go back another way. So I just need to go forward. And that's why I'm trying to get curious about this and saying kind of what happened and just understanding it really for me as a reader. With every error, what you hope to do as a reader is get better, understand it and get better. And I always take apart my things that I get wrong or I misunderstand or I interpret wrong. I don't back away from it. I try to move into it is how I'd like to, be as a reader, because I think that's how you get better. I think if you shy away or if you're afraid to look at it, I think that, you won't improve. You need to, and if you want to improve, you've got to face, it's easy to face the accurate things, right? But the inaccurate things, you have to face them and look and see what happened and ask questions. So, okay. Oh, good, Mountain Sunshine. She's taking the dowsing rods class. That is great. Hi, Marcy. Hi, Anita. Okay. Okay. So this is something I want to talk about because this is something they said would happen. So Leslie says, been through stages of grief this week, felt better than a DT supporting acquaintance texted me, have not texted back, going through grief again, don't want to speak to her. If you notice, it's very, very interesting because the reaction from Democrats has been very different this time. I mean, yes, they have no problem looking at themselves and taking apart the Democratic Party and putting it down. But aside from that, it's been very much like, we're just stepping away from this. You guys did this. You need to fix it. There's this pulling away this time. And it's almost like, we're not going to go through this. You are. And it doesn't mean we won't be affected or touched by things that happen. But and again, I'll go through this more in the video, but what I saw happening was Democrats or people that are for a different way of moving forward and are seeing clearly what's going on, right? They're awake and they see what's going on. They're going to form little communities and little safe havens that take care of one another. And they're going to kind of allow things to play out so that this other faction can wake up. They're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. They're not waking up. They're not, they've had ample opportunity, right? But they're still doing what they're doing. So it's almost like when you've told your child 100 times not to touch the hot stove, and yet they keep trying to touch the hot stove. And I'm not saying you let your kid touch the hot stove, but you see what I'm saying. It's almost like, you're clearly not learning with me just telling you. You're clearly not learning with us jumping in and saving you all the time. This has been going on since the 80s, where the Republicans will go completely crazy and take all the money and be irresponsible, and then the Democrats come in and fix it. Right? This has been this child-parent relationship has been going on for decades, and now it's at a critical mess. And it's kind of like, actually, let me give you the analogy that my guides gave me in meditation. 6 people living in a house. 3 of the people keep trying to burn the house down. The other 3 are trying to arrange the furniture, get everything set up. They're trying to paint. They're trying to make it look nice. And the other 3 keep trying to burn it down. So what's finally happened is that the 3 that are taking care of the house decided, listen, we're going to go move into another house. You guys do what you're going to do. But if you burn it down, you're not coming to our house. And that's what's different this time. And I don't mean another country. When I say another house, I just mean kind of almost building their own safe haven and communities that they're going to take care of each other, because that's who we are. We're wanting to take care of them, even though they don't want us to. Right? They keep being like, no, we don't want that. So we don't want this or that. We're trying to help people who say they don't want our help. So now it's just like, okay, well, we're moving into a new house. We're going to make it nice. But if you guys burn down your house, don't come running to us. And that's the difference this time. That is the difference. Yeah. So I'm gonna go more into that and why in the video, but that's just what I wanted to say about that. And I don't know if this is resonating with you guys, if you've seen this happening, because I have seen it over and over and over again online, where people are just like, I'm done. I'm going to go and plant my garden, and I'm going to go and, go out to lunch with my friends, and I'm going to, you know what I mean? It's almost like, I'm not going to worry my pretty little head about this. This is your problem, and you're going to fix it this time. That's what it feels like. And I think with that shift in perspective, of course, we'll feel some of this. We'll feel it. We live here, but it will be of a lesser impact because we're not in resistance to it. And I think that's the difference. What we're doing is we're saying, okay. We're doing what Eckhart Tolle says, which is to allow. We're allowing. What you resist persists, right? What you resist persists. So as long as we're fighting this way, they're going to be fighting this way. And now we're having a different reaction, which is, okay, all right. You have the keys to the castle. You've got all the responsibility, and we're going to go work on our garden. Let us know how that goes. It's different, right? It's different. And we'll see, and we'll keep an eye on this and keep looking at it. But I find it fascinating. And I've even felt this in myself. There is an unsettling calm that I have about all of this. It is kind of the peace that passes all understanding. I don't understand where this peace is coming from. And again, you may be feeling this too. of course, there's moments where I'm like, oh my God, oh good Lord, what's going to happen? But there's a peace, a calm underneath all of this that I don't quite understand. But I'm like, I'll just go with it. This we're in it, so we got to go with it. But I feel a tremendous amount of calm for some reason. So, um, okay. So Craig, this is kind of a personal question. There was, yeah, the dog was noticing an actual. I feel like the person who was in your car, the spirit that was in your car had an animal with them. So, and I feel like there was more than one person too. It wasn't just one person, but I feel like they had an animal with them, and that's what he was looking at. So maybe think about that. Did your mom have an animal? um, yeah. So moon compass. Let's ask about this. I know I can only control my reaction to things, but I'm having trouble shaking my disappointment in the people who voted for Trump. I feel so sad for our country right now. Yeah. I'm saying things are going to kind of unfold in almost a way that doesn't make sense, but it's going to unfold in a way that, yeah, that it almost doesn't make sense. And I feel like that's a good thing. It's kind of like it's not exactly as we imagine right now, or can imagine, like when we're imagining the worst. So there are going to be some things that are a little bit different. And the people, what do we think about the people? Um, they're saying there's always been a faction of people that tended to want to blame somebody or something else rather than take full responsibility. And they're saying it's a maturity thing, but you also have to remember that there's been a concentrated effort to keep people angry and and pointing a finger. That's how they're putting it, kind of pointing a finger and being angry. And so, but it's also it's playing into something they want, which is to not take responsibility, to not take on, you know, and they're also saying that some of this is tied up in their church, their faith. It's tied up in other things, I feel like. And so it's like to admit this is wrong would be to admit this is wrong too, and this is wrong, and this is wrong. It's too much. But they're saying that a lot of things are going to come, a lot of things for the people that voted for this or have been kind of in this lane for a long time, they're going to come kind of crashing down. And so it's like a tower moment, and that it's almost like they're being shaken awake. And so, but there is kind of they almost make it feel like there's this they're asleep. They're unwilling to wake up. They just don't want to wake up. Yeah, so that's what I've got on that. Okay, Moon Compass, I'm going to leave it there. My whole life, I've heard a male voice calling me. For 2 weeks now, I've been hearing a woman's voice calling me. What is going on? So let me see if I've got this right. Okay, so Jane, the Secret Tarot, they're saying that these two, we'll say entities or spirits, are at two different levels. So it's almost like you've broken through to the next level, like you've opened the next door. So you may hear them both, off and on. Like you may hear the male now. You may hear the male voice sometimes, and then you might hear the female voice, because I feel like the female voice is kind of at a different, it's like a different tone, a different vibration, a different pitch, and you've kind of broken through to that. So you may hear both now. Maybe you'll just hear the woman for a while, because it's like it's open to you now. But these are entities at two different. It's interesting because they're just saying tones, but it's like vibrational frequencies, and it's like you were hearing this tone and maybe that's because you're talking about hearing. They're using tone. But it's like you could hear this tone, and now something has broken through where now you can hear this tone. And it could be just doing your spiritual work, being more more trusting. It could be the change in the fact that the veil is kind of thinning for everybody. That may be what is happening because we are, even though in our country doesn't feel like it right now, and in certain parts of the world doesn't feel like it, we are raising consciousness as a whole. We are. And we also don't have, I want to go back to the other thing, because my guides are telling me we also don't have an accurate understanding of how many people voted for Kamala and how many people voted for Trump. We don't have an accurate view of that yet. And so it's kind of like, you can be disappointed, but this is what's happening with them, kind of an understanding of that. So you can, and when you understand, sometimes you can have more compassion, or at least more understanding, so you can kind of let it go. But yeah, so we don't have that. We don't have the full picture yet. We will have that. We will have the full picture at some point. And again, I'll go through that later, but okay. So Jane, that's what's going on. Okay. So keep up your good work. Maybe a third voice will come in and be like, this one sounds like a man and a woman. I don't know what this is, but keep up the great work. And, take note of things like that. When things change, it's usually because you've broken through a barrier of some kind. Okay. A nap, David. I love a nap. David Curley just said he got it from a nap. Naps are the best. Naps on rainy days are the best. Those are my favorites. Oh, Rebecca Allen, welcome. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Don't, like I said, don't feel depressed and scared, and start as much as you can be in this moment. Okay. make your sanctuary. Um, do what you love to do. Start a new hobby. Get involved in you. Get involved in your little life. And I mean, not meaning your life is insignificant. It's just like your little circle. Whether that means just, you and your neighbors, or you and your family, or just you and your pet, but starting to shore up that little sanctuary for yourself, because I'm telling you that it's not going to quite be the same experience for us. Yes, we have to go along for this ride, so we're gonna witness a lot, but it's not going to quite be the same experience for everybody. Okay, and like I said, I felt like this was very different in that Democrats were just kind of stepping back and allowing, rather than fight, because it didn't help last time, right? It didn't work. In fact, it made them even more bleh. So it's almost an instinctive different tactic that we're moving back and allowing. And so shore up your own little. And if you look around, Yoli, and then what I feel like almost like your guides are stepping forward, that your life isn't different. It's just that you know something now. That's all that's changed. But your actual surroundings and stuff are the same, And so shoring up those comforts and that kind of thing, it's not going to roll out exactly as we think it is. It's not going to roll out exactly the way they think it is. And we'll ask more about that as we go, but it's not going to quite be what we think. So don't think about it. Focus on you. Focus on your right around you, the things you love, things you like to do, things you wanted to learn. If you always want to learn a foreign language, hey, this is the time. Get the app and learn Spanish or whatever. But yeah, that's what they're saying. So I hope that helps, and I hope that helps anybody else who's like, what do we do? I feel like I should do something, but what do we do now? Be in the moment. Shore up your own little sanctuary, and be happy in that. Okay. Okay, and Susie G, that's kind of a political question. We are gonna have Thursday Night Live this week, and like I said, it's gonna change. I was thinking maybe I'll do it once a month or something like that, rather than every other week, and just kind of pull back on how often. I just don't think it's, and I might have certain things maybe off that are kind of not, that I won't look into, like going into Trump's energy and things like that. I don't really want to do that. But I will, but yeah, we'll talk about it and we'll see. Cause I feel like a lot of people are like, don't stop doing Thursday Night Live now. So maybe we'll do it once a month or something like that, but we are going to do it this week. So we'll talk about that this week. Yeah, Karen, exactly. It is like being in the eye of the storm. It really is. And I don't think it's the calm before the storm. I feel like this may be our experience going through this. That if you're kind of connected and stay connected, you're going to have kind of that kind of feeling like everything's kind of happening around you, but you're okay. So yeah, I agree with you, Karen. I understand that. Okay. So Judy H. Kim, as a child, I thought a leprechaun lived under my bed playing a game at night, trying to catch me when I jumped into my bed. Do such earth spirits exist? So they're saying that so many mythical beings are based on encounters, actual encounters. And they're saying, they're calling this an energy, a leprechaun energy. Again, we have to put labels to everything, right? We have to name everything. So this is just what we call it. But they're explaining it as almost like a light, happy kind of jokey or mischievous kind of, but not harmful, just kind of jokey. I feel like silly energy, and found they're saying in a lot of they're showing almost like deep dark areas of like forests, or where it's really green and greenery something. So I don't know if this is a certain like certain places on Earth, or certain types of just certain types of atmosphere anywhere on Earth. But I feel like it's almost like this is where they're seen, or this is where they can be. But all of these, like, they're saying anything like mythical is based in an encounter with that energy. And that's how it was. That's just how it manifests for a human to make sense of it. But it's just an energy. So they're saying it's a combination of the human brain putting like a persona or meaning to it, but it really is just an energy. So maybe like the third eye is kind of actually, so it's not an actual thing you're actually seeing with your eyes. It can feel like that, but maybe it's not something people have encountered with their eyes, but more their third eye. And then it takes it to make sense of it. It looks like a little person or a unicorn or whatever the mythical thing is. So do these energies exist? Yes, they do. But are they exactly like that? Like they are called leprechaun and they look like a leprechaun? Not necessarily. That's just the perceived look of them. And then we put a name to them. That makes sense. I hope that makes sense. Yeah, I know, Tris. Yeah, that anger comes through as well. Like, why do we have to do this again? But and again, I'll go into that as why this is happening. Like, again, why this is happening. And we'll go into Social Security and disability. Those kinds of like bigger things they want to do that have been like around forever, since the 20s or 30s, are going to be a lot harder than they think that it is. It's not going to be a thing. And again, I don't want to do conspiracy theories or anything like that, but the quote unquote mandate is false. It's a false mandate. Even if let's say every vote was earned and every vote is on the level, it was through lies. They lied to everybody. So no, it's not on the level. And so a lot of these things that people actually didn't think they would do, if they try to do them, it's going to be a lot harder than they think to do some of these things. Okay. Okay, so Rebecca, this is the thing, right? Rebecca Allen says there are so many different perspectives out there at the election results, and it's causing me to know what's what. My question is, what can I do in my everyday routine to help me? Okay, so let's ask that for everybody. What can we do in our daily routine? So they're talking about everyone adding a moment of stillness, a moment of quiet, um, because that will help you to keep your equilibrium, basically, is how they're putting it during these times. They're also saying they're talking about releasing, letting, it's almost, I mean, it's kind of a practice of like letting things move through you, but letting go of negativity. When it comes into you or when you see it, letting it go. Letting it go, almost, don't carry it with you. Don't carry it around with you. So having a practice where you can give it to the light or, sit in meditation and blowing it away or whatever, having some sort of way that you kind of release negativity. And they're even saying have some kind of physical thing where it's like you're letting it go. So I'm even wondering if it's some kind of like almost like a ritual, like letting, I give it to, the stars or whatever at night, kind of giving, because that's part of it too, is not allowing the negativity to stay with you. So releasing any negativity you may pick up, sitting in stillness to kind of make your equilibrium okay, so that you're connecting with your spirit every day, basically, and everything's okay. You instinctively know that when you connect with your spirit. It's an instinct. And they're also, they're showing things like having family over that, and people that are let's say like-minded, but more just like you, that care about the same things and are, have the same kind of heart, surround yourself with people like that, but also moving into activities that make you feel that. So things that make you feel more connected to your higher self, but also connected to the good in things. So they're talking about things like, again, like being in your garden or making, baked goods for your neighbor, or, it's kind of like a combination of kind of connecting with others, but also being in the moment and being kind of in your own little activity or world. Something that helps you stay present, but also connects you to the divine, and that may possibly connect you to others that are the same. Okay. So I hope that gives you enough things to think about. And just to re-emphasize, I really do feel like sitting in stillness or sitting in quiet, even for a couple of minutes, just to get in that flow. It also helps you to set up your instincts for the day. It's kind of like you plug in. You're plugging something in when you do that. And so just taking a couple minutes, just breathing in and out, and just listening to that breath. And, if you can do it a little longer every day, that's fine. If it's not for you, just do it a couple minutes. It's okay. And then to get into a meditative state in other ways, you can go for a kind of a mindful walk where you're just kind of looking and listening and smelling the smells. You can do a singular activity. I talked about how a lot of readers get information when they drive because they're just kind of singularly focused. And it's kind of like you're focused on one thing, but you're also, your mind is kind of open to imagination, open to, it's kind of drifting in a way. That's kind of the mode you get in when you read. And so things can kind of come in. So finding an activity that brings you to that place, and I always say an activity where you lose time. So, you've had those experiences, right? Where you've been like, oh, I've been doing this for 2 hours and I thought it was just 5 minutes. But those kinds of activities that kind of draw you in, not something like video games or TV. Those are more where you go kind of below thought, where you're kind of just vegging out. It's more of an alertness. So usually doing something that's fulfilling or interesting to you, where you have enthusiasm for it. And so something like, cooking or even like washing the dishes. I do a lot of it with my housework because you're doing something, you're alert to it, but it's mundane enough where your mind's kind of just drifting, or it's kind of open. So that's what I would say. Okay, Rebecca, I'll do one more because it looks like we're at 2:00. Yeah, that is what it felt like too, Leslie. It felt oppressive. I think it's a really good word, the morning of the election. To me, I just didn't feel good. And it's like I wasn't enthusiastic for it. It's like, and I wasn't really nervous. It was weird. It was just a completely different feeling than I had had for the months and weeks running up to the election. So it was just very, very strange. Um, oh, good. Okay. Alrighty. Yeah. So let's answer this last question. Loves and peace. And this is another thing is pick up a new spiritual tool. This is a great time to do that. Something that appeals to you. It just has to appeal to you. And it will be the right tool for you. So it may lead you to the right tool for you, but just go with it. If it appeals to you, you think it sounds fun, or it's always appealed to you, like I've always wanted to try the tarot cards, do it. This is a great time to do that. I left my husband to use my housing cross and they wouldn't move for him. But when I do, that's it. And you're, especially with things like that, where you're holding them or they're in your, they have your energy. Yeah, that you need to build that relationship with your tool, and then you have that relationship with your tool. It's just like if I tried to use my sister's cards, I could probably read with them, but they wouldn't speak to me the way that they speak to her when she reads them. There's one reader, Ellie, and she always says the cards are singing. And or the cards are talking, and it's that connection that she has with them, and that's like, it's almost like a vibrational match, that this is, and that's where it's like the information can stream through that, or it helps it come in. So it's all connected, but building your relationship with your tool. And that's why it's important that you like the tool. You want to use it, so that intention is there. In fact, that reminds me, I'm going to draw a card for us before we go. I'll draw and I just got another kind of batch of my Power of Intention cards. I always feel bad when people have to wait for them, but if you want to order any for Christmas or anything like that, I just got some in, and just so you know, and just so if you order them, you don't have to wait right now. But let me see what the guides want us to, what our intention can be this week. Or next week. Ooh, this one jumped out. Oh, love. That's the picture on the back. They're all black and white. Today, and they each have just if you don't know, they each have a prayer of intention on the card, and you can draw them each day or for a week or a month, or if it's, something you feel like you need to work on, you can, do it longer. But today, my prayer of intention is love. In situations and interactions that I have, may my thoughts, words, and actions always reflect love. All right, so I'm going to leave you with that, you guys, and take care. And you can see any of my, classes or anything like I said, do something, expand your spiritual side, learn something new. But all my stuff is at intuitiview.com, so you can go look at everything there. I have a wait list for my readings, but you're welcome to be on the wait list and just let me know. And I'll put you on. Just send me an email at intuitiview@gmail.com and I will put you on. Okay? All right, everybody take care. Have a good week. Try not to worry, okay? We're not there yet. Sure up your surroundings. Think about your sanctuary, what it's going to be, what it's going to entail, what's going to be in it. And yeah, put your energy towards that, okay? All right, and I'll put up my video probably either today, maybe tonight, at the latest tomorrow, but I'm still kind of parsing it out, making sure I hit all the points my guys want me to hit, okay? All right, everyone, take care. See you later. Bye.